Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Deep Dive. I am back again today with DeFi Dad, our influencer of the month for August. And this month we are talking all about DeFi. If you missed our first couple of videos, make sure you go back and watch those. We break down the basics of what DeFi or decentralized finance is and some of the most common use cases for DeFi today. And in this video, we are going to be talking about some of DeFi Dad's favorite unrealized use cases for DeFi. And so right now, we're still in the super early days of DeFi. This is like the 90s of the internet where nobody could even imagine, email or, not to mention services like Uber or Airbnb. And so I'm really excited to hear DeFi Dad's thoughts on what are some of the really cool things and the cool ways that we can use DeFi in the future. So welcome, DeFi Dad. Thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, hey Diana. Hey, good to be back with you. So last video we talked about some of these more common use cases, which just as a reminder were lending, borrowing, stable coins as a medium of exchange, and trading. When you zoom out and you think about the future of where we're going with DeFi, I think you have to appreciate that the future probably means more digital first living. And so I think long term, if anyone's ever watched the movie or read the book Ready Player One, or any sorts of sci-fi novels about a metaverse that we will live in, it just feels very likely that we're going to end up with headsets that are able to make us enjoy a digital first lifestyle. So, for me, having an Oculus has meant that I was able to connect with others and continue to want to go back to this, this digital living in what we generally call the metaverse. So long story short to that is if your community thrives in a digital world, it means that you're going to ultimately need the construct of money and finance. You're going to want to be able to transact with one another. It could mean that there's opportunities right now in Decentraland, you can buy digital pieces of land and then people build digital structures that are homes to them, and other people come over and hang out in those places. So all of the common points of our lifestyle today in the physical world are being mirrored in this digital world. And so DeFi, I think, plays a really huge role in us moving to this digital living. And then if you consider the fact that today the physical world also means lots of inequality amongst where we live, how we live, what we have access to. Well, if you play a video game, whether you're in India or the United States, you're experiencing the same thing. Well, again, imagine if that is a virtual world that we live in the future. And so suddenly you have this ability then to connect with others and be able to share in I think a more equal sort of lifestyle. So there's all of that. And then I'd say one bit to add to this in terms of unrealized use cases for DeFi is we're still in the early days we're talking about this use case in DeFi mirrors something that we already know and use in our daily lives, like lending and earning interest. But what happens when we zoom ahead, decades, and we're talking about use cases that are built for native DeFi applications and use cases that we don't even know of yet. In the past year, there's been developments from protocols like Alchemix for a self-repaying loan. That was a really radical concept that none of us would have ever really thought of. And I think that as a benchmark is really nothing compared to the sorts of sci-fi, use cases we're looking at. You can imagine an AI-powered NFT, an INFT, intelligent NFT in the future, being able to manage its own assets, being able to earn yield and being able to, let's say, buy some digital land and be able to, build a community around that. So there's all sorts of interesting futures, I think, around digital first living that DeFi will enable.
That is super cool. I love the metaverse. I love virtual lands like Decentraland and crypto voxels. I never really tied those things to DeFi in the past, and so I'm glad that you brought this up and linked those two together because yeah, I'm starting to see now like all the ties between the metaverse and DeFi, and I think all of that is super super exciting. So thanks for breaking that down for us. And AI powered NFTs as well, not something I thought about, but all very exciting things. And I can't wait to see, how things develop and what we actually end up, all the cool things we end up using in our day-to-day lives with DeFi. And so thank you so much, DeFi Dad, for joining me again on another episode. In our next episode, which will be our last episode of the series, we'll be talking about what the future of DeFi will look like from a more practical perspective. And so, there's obviously going to be really cool, fun, new things,
Yeah.
but there's also the practical. What does a day to day look like? I think that's what people really want to know as well, because that's what's going to affect everybody's day to day lives. So thanks so much, DeFi Dad. And I will see you again in our fourth and final video very soon.